The tears came before the food did. Shaquille O'Neal sat in a small booth at Mama Rosa's, a tiny Cuban restaurant on Calle Ocho in Miami's Little Havana. It was March 2019. The place had maybe 12 tables. The ceiling fan turned slowly. The walls were painted yellow. Old photos of Havana hung in wooden frames. The smell of black beans and fried plantains filled the air. Shaq was alone. He wore a plain black t-shirt and a cap pulled low. At 7 feet 1 inch tall and over 300 pounds, hiding was never easy for him. But Mama Rosa's was not the kind of place where NBA legends ate dinner. That was the whole point. He wanted quiet. He wanted to think. His friend Terrence Whitfield had told him about this place. Terrence was a retired firefighter who lived 3 blocks away. He said the Ropa Vieja at Mama Rosa's was the best in Miami, so Shaq came. He needed a night with no cameras, no fans asking for photos, no noise. He stared at the menu. The words blurred a little. His mind was somewhere else. It was on his children. It was on the phone call he had gotten that morning. The one that made his hands shake. The one about his oldest son, Sharif. But we will get to that. Because right then, at 7:14 in the evening, the front door of Mama Rosa's opened. A woman walked in. She had brown skin and kind eyes. She wore a simple white blouse and jeans. Her hair was pulled back. She looked around the small room for a table. Then she saw him, and he saw her. Shawnee O'Neal, his ex-wife, the mother of 4 of his 6 children. The woman he had married on December 26, 2002, in a beautiful ceremony at the Beverly Hills Hotel in California. The woman he had divorced in 2011 after years of heartbreak. They had not planned this. They had not spoken in weeks. Miami is a big city. Over 2 million people live there. The chance of them both walking into a 12-table restaurant on the same Tuesday night was almost zero. But life does not care about odds. Shawnee froze near the door. Her lips parted, but no words came out. The hostess, a young woman named Daniela Reyes, looked back and forth between them. She could feel the weight in the air. She did not know who they were, but she knew something important was happening. Shaq slowly set down his menu. His big hands were flat on the table. His chest rose and fell. 7 years. It had been 7 years since the divorce was final. 7 years of co-parenting. 7 years of short texts about school pickups and basketball games. 7 years of being polite but distant. And now here she was, 3 feet away in a restaurant that smelled like his grandmother's kitchen. "Shawnee," he said. His voice was low, almost a whisper for a man his size. She swallowed hard. "Shaq." Daniela quietly pulled out the chair across from him. She did not ask if they were dining together. She just knew. Shawnee did not leave. She could have. The door was right behind her. But something held her there. Maybe it was the look on his face. She had known Shaquille O'Neal for over 20 years. She knew every version of his smile. And she knew every version of his pain. This was the face of a man carrying something heavy. Something he had not told anyone yet. Something about their son. She sat down. And that is when the night began to change everything. To understand what happened in that restaurant, you need to know where Shaq came from. Shaquille Rashawn O'Neal was born on March 6, 1972, in Newark, New Jersey. His mother, Lucille O'Neal, was young and strong. His biological father, Joseph Tony, was not around. Tony struggled with his own problems and was in and out of trouble. He was not there for birthdays. He was not there for school plays. He was not there at all. When Shaq was a toddler, his mother married Philip Arthur Harrison, a sergeant in the United States Army. Harrison became the only father Shaq ever knew. He was strict, he was tough, he believed in discipline and hard work. If Shaq got in trouble at school, Harrison made him do push-ups until his arms burned. Because of the Army, the family moved a lot. They lived in New Jersey, then Georgia, then Germany, then Texas. Shaq went to Robert G. Cole High School in San Antonio, Texas. That is where basketball found him. Or maybe he found basketball. Either way, the boy, who was already 6 feet 6 inches tall at age 13, became unstoppable on the court. He led Cole High School to a 68-1 record over 2 seasons. Colleges from all over the country sent him letters. He chose Louisiana State University. At LSU, he became a national star. He averaged over 21 points per game. He blocked shots like he was swatting flies. The Orlando Magic selected him with the first overall pick in the 1992 NBA draft. But through all of this, one thing stayed with Shaq: the absence of his real father. He once talked about it in an interview. He said he used to watch other kids get picked up by their dads after practice. He would stand there and wait, and no one came. His stepfather Harrison loved him, but the hole left by Tony never fully closed. That hole shaped everything. It made Shaq loud and funny in public because being the center of attention meant no one could ignore him. It made him generous because he never wanted anyone to feel the way he felt as a boy. And it made him desperate to be a perfect father. Desperation is a dangerous foundation for anything. Because when you are desperate to never fail, the fear of failure follows you everywhere. Into your marriage, into your home, into the quiet moments when the house is dark, and your wife is asleep, and you are staring at the ceiling, wondering if you are enough. Shaq carried that fear into his relationship with Shawnee, and eventually that fear helped destroy it. But before the destruction came the love. And the love was real. They met in 1999. Shaq was 27 years old, and already one of the most famous basketball players on earth. He played center for the Los Angeles Lakers. He stood 7 feet 1 inch tall and weighed 325 pounds. His shoe size was 22. When he dunked the basketball, he sometimes broke the backboard. He was a force of nature. Shawnee Nelson was different. She was smart and calm. She grew up in Wichita Falls, Texas, a small city near the Oklahoma border. She studied film at the University of Houston. She was working in the entertainment world in Los Angeles when they met through mutual friends at a party in Beverly Hills. The party was loud. Music thumped through large speakers. People danced and laughed. Famous faces were everywhere, but Shaq noticed Shawnee standing by the window, sipping water, watching the room with quiet eyes. He walked over. People moved out of his way like water parting around a boulder. "You look bored," he said. "I'm not bored," she said. "I'm observing." He laughed. Most people around him were loud and eager. They wanted something from him, a photo, a connection, a story to tell their friends. But Shawnee was just standing there, calm as a lake on a windless morning. They talked for 2 hours that night, not about basketball, not about money or fame. They talked about family, about growing up, about what they wanted from life. Shaq told her about his stepfather Harrison and the push-ups. Shawnee told him about her grandmother in Texas who made peach cobbler every Sunday. She was not the kind of person who got nervous around famous people. She was steady. She had her own goals and her own dreams. That was what Shaq loved about her. She did not need him. She chose him. There is a big difference. Their love grew fast. By 2000, they were together all the time. Shaq was winning championships with the Lakers. He won 3 straight titles in 2000, 2001, and 2002 alongside Kobe Bryant. Those were golden years. The whole city of Los Angeles loved him. His face was everywhere. His laugh could fill a room. But through all the fame, Shawnee kept him grounded. She reminded him to call his mother Lucille. She made sure the house felt like a home, not a museum. She cooked Sunday dinners. She told him when he was being too loud, too reckless, too much, and he listened, because he trusted her more than anyone. On December 26, 2002, the day after Christmas, they got married. The ceremony at the Beverly Hills Hotel was private and elegant. Close friends and family came. Shaq wore a dark suit that had to be custom-made because of his size. Shawnee wore a white gown that seemed to glow under the soft lights. Their son Sharif, who was 2 years old at the time, was there in a tiny suit, wobbling down the aisle with a pillow that held the rings. They already had Sharif Rashawn O'Neal, born on January 11, 2000. After the wedding, more children came. Amira Sanaa was born in 2001. Shakir Rashawn came in 2003. And the youngest, Miara Sanaa, was born in 2006. 4 children together, plus Shaq's son Miles from a previous relationship and Shawnee's son from before as well. A big, blended, beautiful family. For a while, it was everything Shaq had ever wanted. Everything the little boy from Newark had dreamed about while watching other kids get picked up by their fathers. But no dream lasts forever without cracks. The early years of their marriage were magic. They lived in a massive house in Windermere, Florida, near Orlando. The house had 12 bedrooms, a basketball court, a swimming pool shaped like a sneaker, and enough room for all the children to run wild. The neighborhood was quiet and green. Big oak trees lined the streets. It felt safe. It felt like home. Shaq had been traded from the Lakers to the Miami Heat in 2004 in one of the biggest deals in NBA history. But even though he played in Miami, the family stayed in Windermere. It was their base, their roots. Every Sunday, Shawnee cooked a big dinner. The whole family sat around a long wooden table. Shaq would say grace. Then the noise would begin. Children laughing, forks clinking. Sharif arguing with Miles about who was better at video games. Amira telling stories about school. Baby Miara banging a spoon on her high chair. Shaq lived for those Sundays. The rest of the week belonged to the world, but Sundays belonged to him. He was still dominant on the basketball court. In 2006, he helped the Miami Heat win the NBA championship. He and Dwyane Wade made one of the best duos in league history. The city of Miami threw a parade. Confetti rained down on Biscayne Boulevard. Shaq stood on a float and held the trophy high. Somewhere in the crowd, Shawnee stood with the children, cheering. That was the peak. If life were a mountain, that championship parade was the top. Everything after was a slow walk downhill. They just did not know it yet. Shaq was happy. But happy men sometimes make careless mistakes. Not because they are bad, but because they think happiness will last no matter what. They think the Sunday dinners will keep coming. They think the laughter will never stop. They take their eyes off the road. And when you take your eyes off the road, the car starts to drift. The drift was slow at first. So slow that no one noticed. Not the friends, not the family, not even Shaq and Shawnee themselves. But the cracks were forming. Tiny ones, like hairline fractures in a bone, invisible to the eye but getting deeper with every step. And soon, the whole thing would break. Marriage is hard for anyone. But marriage in the spotlight is a different kind of hard. By 2007, things had started to shift. Shaq was away from home more than ever. Road games stretched across weeks. Business deals took him to New York, Los Angeles, and overseas. His brand was growing. He was making movies, recording rap albums, appearing on talk shows, and starring in reality TV specials. Shaq was not just a basketball player anymore. He was a global empire. Shawnee felt the distance. She was home with the children. Diaper changes at midnight. School drop-offs at 7 in the morning. Dentist appointments. Soccer games. Science projects made from cardboard and glue. She handled it all with grace, the way she handled everything. But she was tired, and she was lonely. The arguments started small. A missed dinner, forgotten phone call on their anniversary. A school play where Shaq's seat was empty. A birthday party where he arrived an hour late with a gift, still in the store bag, unwrapped. These were not big things on their own. But small cracks, left alone, become big breaks. Then the rumors started. Tabloid magazines printed stories about Shaq and other women. Paparazzi photos appeared online. Some stories were true. Some were twisted versions of the truth. Some were complete lies, but it did not matter. Each headline was a hammer blow to the marriage. Trust, once broken, is the hardest thing in the world to rebuild. Shawnee tried. She went to couples counseling. She talked to her mother for hours on the phone. She prayed at night after the children were asleep. She wanted the marriage to work. Not for the cameras, not for the public image, but for the family she had built. For the Sunday dinners. For the children who deserved two parents under one roof. Shaq tried too in his own way. He bought jewelry. He planned surprise vacations. He wrote her letters. He made promises. But promises without change are just words on paper. And words on paper do not fix a broken heart. He was also dealing with his own pain. His body was breaking down from 17 years of basketball. His knees ached constantly. His toes were damaged and swollen. He played through injury every night because that was what warriors did. And the pressure of being Shaquille O'Neal, the man who was supposed to be funny and strong and unbreakable, left no room for weakness, no room for softness, no room for the kind of honesty a marriage needs to survive. In 2007, Shaq was traded from the Miami Heat to the Phoenix Suns, then to the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2009, then to the Boston Celtics in 2010. Each trade was another earthquake for the family. New city, new team, new routines. The children felt it. Sharif, who was 9 by now, started getting quiet. He spent more time alone in his room, shooting a small basketball into a hoop on the back of his door. Amira started asking why Daddy was always on the phone. Shakir cried at drop-off on the first day at a new school. Miara was too young to understand, but babies feel tension the way animals feel storms. She cried more. She slept less. Shawnee filed for divorce on November 10, 2009. The papers were filed in Miami-Dade County. The reason listed was irreconcilable differences. That is a legal term. It sounds clean and simple, but there was nothing clean or simple about it. The Sunday dinners stopped, and the long table in the Windermere house sat empty. The divorce was final in 2011. They split their property. They agreed on custody of the children. Everything was done through lawyers and courtrooms and stacks of paper. Two people who once shared a bed now communicated through legal teams. On the day the judge signed the final papers, Shaq sat in his car in the parking lot outside the courthouse in Miami. He did not drive away for 30 minutes. He just sat there. The engine was off. The windows were up. The Florida heat pressed against the glass. A man who had won 4 NBA championships. A man who had earned over $290 million in salary during his career. A man who could make 50,000 people cheer just by walking onto a basketball court. And in that parking lot, he felt like he had lost the only game that ever mattered. He thought about his stepfather, Philip Harrison. Harrison had stayed. Through every army transfer, every tough year, every hard night, Harrison stayed. He did not leave, he did not quit, and he expected Shaq to do the same. Shaq could almost hear the old man's voice. "You don't walk away from your family, boy." But Shaq had not walked away. The marriage had crumbled around both of them, like a house eaten by termites. By the time you see the damage, the walls are already gone. Shawnee felt it too. She went home to the house in Windermere. The children were at school. The house was quiet in a way that felt wrong. She walked through the kitchen and ran her hand along the long wooden table where Sunday dinners used to happen. She sat down in her usual chair. She looked at her left hand. The tan line from her wedding ring was still there. A pale stripe on brown skin. It would take months to fade. She wondered if the mark on her heart would take longer. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "How are you, baby?" Shawnee typed back, "I'm okay." Then she deleted it. She typed, "I will be okay." That felt more honest. She pressed send and set the phone on the table. Then she put her head down on her arms, right there at the kitchen table, and cried. Not for the marriage. Not for the money or the house or the fame. For the family that was supposed to last forever. Shaq retired from the NBA that same year. His last season with the Boston Celtics was cut short by injuries. He announced his retirement on June 1, 2011, through a video on social media. In the video, he was smiling. Classic Shaq. Funny, charming, larger than life. But Shawnee watched that video from her living room and saw what no one else could see. She saw the sadness behind his eyes. She knew that face. She had studied it for over a decade. And she knew that beneath the jokes and the big personality, Shaq was hurting. She almost called him that night. Almost. After the divorce, Shaq and Shawnee went in different directions. Shaq threw himself into his next chapter. He became a TV analyst on TNT's show Inside the NBA, alongside Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Ernie Johnson. The four of them became one of the most popular groups on television. They argued. They laughed. They made fun of each other. Shaq was the biggest man in the room in every way. He also invested in businesses. He bought restaurants, car washes, fitness centers, and apartment buildings. He partnered with brands like Icy Hot, Gold Bond, and Papa John's. He earned a doctoral degree in education from Barry University in Miami Shores, Florida, in 2012. At the graduation ceremony, he wore a cap and gown that had to be specially ordered. He wanted people to call him Dr. O'Neill. He kept busy. Every single hour was scheduled. Meetings, appearances, TV shows, DJ sets at nightclubs in Las Vegas. If every minute was full, there was no space for the emptiness to creep in. Shawnee built her own empire. She created and executive produced the reality TV show Basketball Wives, which premiered on VH1 in 2010. The show followed the lives of women connected to professional basketball players. It became a massive hit. Season after season, viewers tuned in. Shawnee was not just a basketball player's ex-wife. She was a businesswoman, a producer, and a brand of her own. She also focused on raising their children. Sharif was growing into a talented basketball player. He played at Windermere Prep in Florida, where he became one of the top recruits in the country. College scouts filled the bleachers at his games. Amira was finding her own path in basketball too. Shakir was developing his skills on the court. And little Miara was showing signs of being the most gifted athlete in the entire family. At just 12 years old, she was already taller than most grown women and had a jump shot that made coaches shake their heads in disbelief. Shaq and Shawnee talked when they needed to. School conferences, basketball tournaments, holidays. They were polite. They were careful. They never said a bad word about each other in public. That was their unspoken rule. Whatever happened between them, the children would never be caught in the middle. But being polite is not the same as being close. They were like two people who spoke the same language but lived in different countries. Years went by. 2012, 13, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. Birthdays and graduations. Report cards and basketball showcases. Christmas mornings where both parents showed up, smiled for the photos, and then drove to separate homes in separate cars. Their friends tried to get them to talk, really talk. Not about pickup times and permission slips, but about the real things. Regret, forgiveness, what they lost, what they missed. A mutual friend named Jacqueline Torres once told Shawnee, "You two are the stubbornest people I have ever met. You would rather be lonely than be honest." Shawnee did not answer, because Jacqueline was right. Then came 2018, and 2018 changed everything. Because in September of that year, their son Sharif sat in a doctor's office at UCLA Medical Center and heard words that no 18-year-old should ever have to hear. Words about his heart. Sharif O'Neal was a star. By 2018, he was 18 years old, 6 feet 9 inches tall, and one of the top high school basketball recruits in America. He had committed to play for UCLA, one of the most famous college basketball programs in history. The same school where legends like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, and Reggie Miller had played. The same school that had won 11 national championships. The future was bright. Sharif was going to follow in his father's footsteps. He was going to be an NBA player. Everyone said so. Scouts, coaches, TV analysts. The O'Neal name was going to live on the basketball court for another generation. Then, during a routine physical exam before his freshman season at UCLA, doctors found something wrong. Sharif had a heart condition called an anomalous coronary artery. One of the blood vessels that supplied his heart was in the wrong position. It was a rare condition. Most people who have it never know. They live their whole lives without a single symptom. But for athletes who push their bodies to extreme limits, the condition can cause sudden cardiac arrest. It can happen without warning. A player runs down the court, jumps for a rebound, and their heart simply stops. Young athletes had died from similar conditions on courts and fields across the country. Hank Gathers, a college basketball star at Loyola Marymount, collapsed and died during a game in 1990 from a heart condition. Reggie Lewis of the Boston Celtics died during practice in 1990.